The Cleveland Browns organization just became ground zero for one of the most explosive internal conflicts in recent NFL history. And what's happening behind closed doors right now has the potential to completely reshape this franchise moving forward. Jimmy Haslam, the billionaire owner who has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into trying to build a winner in Cleveland, just witnessed something that allegedly has him absolutely livid. And sources close to the situation are saying the fallout from this incident could be swift, severe, and careering for at least one player currently wearing brown and orange. We're not talking about another disappointing loss or another frustrating season. We're talking about a public display of disrespect so blatant, so over the top, so completely unacceptable that it has ownership questioning everything about the culture they're trying to build. Jeudy, the $52 million wide receiver, who was supposed to bring veteran leadership and production to Cleveland's struggling offense, was caught on national television during the devastating loss to the San Francisco 49ers, absolutely berating rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders on the sideline. And what allegedly happened behind closed doors after that game is about to send shockwaves through the entire NFL. Let me paint the complete picture of what transpired, because the details matter enormously, and they reveal just how dysfunctional things have become inside the Cleveland Browns facility. It's the fourth quarter. The Browns are trailing the 49ers in what is only Shedeur Sanders' second career start in the National Football League. The rookie quarterback is sitting on the bench, doing exactly what professional quarterbacks are supposed to do when they're trying to learn and improve. He's studying plays on the Microsoft Surface tablet alongside offensive linemen, reviewing what went wrong on previous drives, trying to figure out how to attack a dominant San Francisco defense that's been making life miserable all afternoon. And here comes Jeudy walking over with attitude radiating off him like heat from asphalt in July. The CBS cameras capture everything that happens next, and it's uncomfortable to watch. Jeudy starts clapping his hands aggressively right in Shedeur's face, leaning over the seated quarterback in what can only be described as an intimidating and disrespectful posture. He's standing over Sanders, barking at him with visible anger and frustration, repeatedly telling him that's wrong, like he's the offensive coordinator, like he's the one calling plays, like he has any right whatsoever to talk down to the guy who's throwing him the football. When Shedeur tries to defend himself, because that's what any self-respecting competitor would do when being attacked, Jeudy doesn't back down. He keeps going. He keeps the confrontation escalating right there on the sideline with 70,000 fans watching in the stadium and millions more watching on television. The disrespect is so blatant, so over the top, so completely unprofessional. That veteran offensive lineman Ethan Pazich literally has to step in and physically separate them. Think about that for a moment. A massive offensive lineman had to play peacemaker because a $52 million receiver couldn't control his emotions and conduct himself like a professional. Sources inside the Cleveland Browns organization are allegedly saying that Jimmy Haslam watched this entire confrontation unfold from his owner's box, and he was absolutely furious. According to these reports, Haslam is now asking some very pointed questions that should make Jeudy extremely uncomfortable. Why is a $52 million receiver attacking a rookie quarterback instead of catching passes? Why is the veteran creating drama and division instead of being part of the solution? Why is this happening to the quarterback that Haslam has publicly defended multiple times against national criticism? Here's what makes the situation even more explosive and reveals the depth of the hypocrisy at play. Let's look at Jeudy's actual production with Shedeur Sanders as his quarterback, compared to his performance earlier this season with other signal callers. In Sanders' 2 career starts, Jeudy has recorded exactly 4 catches on 7 targets. That's a 57% catch rate, which is mediocre at best for a supposed number 1 receiver. But it gets significantly worse. He has 2 dropped passes in just those 2 games, with Shedeur throwing him the ball. 2 drops out of 7 targets means nearly 30% of catchable balls thrown his direction hit the ground. And let's not forget about that inexplicable fumble last week where Jeudy caught the ball and then got stripped from behind with absolutely zero awareness of his surroundings, costing the Browns valuable field position at a critical moment in the game. That's not quarterback error. That's not timing issues. That's not chemistry problems. That's a veteran receiver failing to protect the football and make fundamental plays that every receiver learns in high school. But here's the statistic that should make every Cleveland Browns fan absolutely furious and exposes the incredible hypocrisy of Jeudy's sideline tirade. Through 10 games earlier this season with Deshaun Watson and Joe Flacco serving as quarterbacks, Jeudy had 28 catches with 8 drops. That's only 2.8 catches per game, which is absolutely lousy production for your highest paid receiver, the guy who's supposed to be your go-to target on third downs and in the red zone. 8 drops with veteran quarterbacks who have decades of combined NFL experience between them. So, here's the million-dollar question that has Jimmy Haslam and everyone else scratching their heads. Where was Jerry Jeudy's sideline confrontation with Deshaun Watson? Where's the footage of him clapping in Joe Flacco's face when they were throwing interceptions and the offense was sputtering? Where was this aggressive in-your-face accountability when those veteran quarterbacks were struggling? Why is Jeudy specifically targeting the rookie, the 5th-round pick, the young quarterback who Jimmy Haslam has publicly defended multiple times? The answer to that question reveals everything you need to know about Jerry Jeudy's character. And frankly, it's not a flattering picture. This is a pattern of behavior that extends back years, and it shows a player who cannot handle criticism, who lets his ego interfere with his performance, and who attacks others instead of looking in the mirror at his own shortcomings. And there's documented evidence of this pattern that every Browns fan needs to understand. Remember when Hall of Fame wide receiver Steve Smith called out Jerry Jeudy several years ago? That exchange explains absolutely everything about Jeudy's character and why he's acting this way towards Shedeur Sanders. Smith was doing his podcast, Cut to It, and discussing wide receivers around the league who hadn't lived up to expectations given their draft position and perceived talent level. The specific term Smith used to describe Jeudy was JAG, which stands for just a guy, just an average wide receiver who was taken in the first round by the Denver Broncos, but wasn't producing anywhere near first-round talent levels. When Steve Smith eventually saw Jerry Jeudy in person at an NFL event, Smith did what mature professionals do. He tried to apologize face-to-face. Smith approached Jeudy and said something along the lines of, "Hey, I know I said some things on my podcast that were harsh, and I want to apologize for that. I probably crossed a line. That's pure class. That's a Hall of Fame player. Someone who earned the respect of the entire league through his incredible career, being mature enough and secure enough to address his criticism directly and attempt to make amends." You know what Jerry Jeudy's response was? He cursed at Steve Smith. He said, "I don't mess with you," and repeated it with profanity. He straight up disrespected a Hall of Famer who was trying to show him respect and extend an olive branch. And Steve Smith, being the legend that he is, being someone who never backed down from anyone during his playing career, didn't let it slide. He went right back at Jeudy on his podcast and delivered one of the most devastating critiques you'll ever hear. Smith said, "When teams call me and ask, should they trade for Jerry Jeudy? Should they invest in this player? I will say no. Don't trade for Jerry Jeudy, because he's mentally unable to handle constructive criticism from people who watch football and analyze the game professionally." Smith called him a Tier 3 receiver, not elite like the Justin Jeffersons or Tyreek Hills of the world, not even good like the solid number 2 receivers around the league. Tier 3, basically replaceable. And you know what? Steve Smith was absolutely right. Because here we are years later, and Jerry Jeudy is still showing that he cannot handle adversity. He's still demonstrating that when things aren't going well, instead of looking in the mirror and holding himself accountable, he wants to blame everybody else around him. He wants to point fingers. He wants to create confrontations. He wants to make it about everyone else's failures, rather than examining his own performance. Now, let's talk about what actually happened during that 49ers game, because the context matters tremendously and reveals who really deserves the blame for the offensive struggles. In the first quarter, Jeudy and Sanders threw a deep ball downfield to Jerry Jeudy that had a legitimate chance to be a touchdown or, at minimum, a huge chunk play that could have changed the entire momentum of the game. The ball was thrown deep. Jeudy had a step on his defender. He was in position to make a play, but the pass sailed just slightly out of reach and fell incomplete. Now, multiple analysts who have watched the film repeatedly are saying that if Jeudy had just kept running at full speed, if he had maintained his velocity and attacked the football aggressively, the ball would have landed right in his hands, in stride, for a massive gain. Instead, Jeudy decelerated on his route. He slowed down instead of accelerating through his break, and the ball landed just beyond his outstretched hands. After the incompletion, you can clearly see Jeudy on the sideline shaking his head, throwing his hands up in frustration, making it obvious through his body language that he thought it was entirely Shedur's fault. But here's what Jerry Jeudy either doesn't understand or refuses to acknowledge. There was significant wind in that game, affecting the flight of the football. Shedeur himself admitted after the game in his press conference that wind was absolutely a factor in some of his throws. Sanders said, and I'm quoting him directly here, "All quarterbacks know you gotta cut through the wind whenever you throw. I was just calculated off. It was just a miss. It was just a missed shot. And when I missed that shot, I got to stay on myself to keep shooting. That right there is accountability. That's a rookie quarterback who just played his second NFL game, taking full responsibility for a throw that didn't connect. He's not making excuses. He's not blaming the wind completely. He's not pointing fingers at his receiver for slowing down on the route. He's saying, I missed, and I need to be better." That's the mark of a leader. That's the mentality of a franchise quarterback. And that's exactly what Jimmy Haslam wants to see from the player he's invested in and publicly defended. But where is Jerry Jeudy's accountability? Where is his admission that maybe he could have run his route better? That maybe he could have adjusted to the ball in flight? That maybe as a veteran receiver making $52 million, he should be able to make those difficult catches that change games? Instead of owning his part in the disconnect, Jeudy spent the entire game frustrated, sulking, and eventually exploding in that public confrontation. His final stat line, 3 catches for 26 yards. That's it. That's all he produced in a game where his team desperately needed playmakers to step up against one of the NFL's best defenses. Then at the start of the fourth quarter, when the Browns are trailing and desperately need everyone pulling in the same direction, Jeudy decides to walk over to Shedeur and start a public confrontation that gets captured on national television. Here's where Jimmy Haslam enters this story in a major way, and why sources are allegedly saying he's absolutely furious about what transpired. The Browns owner has been incredibly vocal about supporting Jeudy and Sanders ever since draft day, even when it wasn't popular, even when people were questioning the pick. When Eric Mangini and others in the media suggested that Haslam forced the Shedeur pick on general manager Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski, that the GM and coach didn't actually want him, but were overruled by ownership, Haslam went public to shut that narrative down immediately. Haslam said, "We have a good process here." At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Haslam was defending his general manager and defending the organizational process. But he was also defending Shedeur by making it crystal clear that the entire organization believed in him, that this wasn't some rogue owner decision, that everyone was on board with bringing this young quarterback to Cleveland. Then when reporters asked Haslam about all the noise and criticism surrounding Jeudy and Sanders and why he wasn't playing earlier in the season, Haslam said something incredibly revealing. He said, "Listen, he's a serious football player, and inside the building there's no noise. He comes to work every single day, just like everybody else, and he's trying to get better as a football player. That's all that matters to us." That's an owner standing up for his quarterback. That's an owner saying, "I don't care what the media thinks. I don't care what fans on social media are saying. This kid is doing everything right inside our building, and that's what we evaluate him on." So, imagine how Jimmy Haslam allegedly feels watching Jerry Jeudy, a guy the Browns are paying $52.5 million over 3 years with $41 million fully guaranteed, publicly disrespecting that same quarterback on the sideline. The same quarterback Haslam has defended publicly multiple times. The same quarterback the organization invested a draft pick in. The same quarterback they believe can be the answer to decades of futility at the most important position in football. Sources with alleged knowledge of the situation are saying that after the game ended, Haslam had heated conversations with both Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski about the incident. According to these reports, he wanted to know why Jerry Jeudy felt comfortable attacking Shedeur like that. He wanted to know what the coaching staff planned to do about it. He wanted to know what accountability measures would be put in place. And most importantly, he allegedly wanted to make it absolutely clear that this kind of behavior isn't acceptable in his organization. Here's the reality that Browns fans need to understand. Jerry Jeudy is supposed to be the leader of that receiving corps. He's the veteran. He's the guy who's played in big games. He's the Pro Bowl caliber player when he's performing at his best. He's the guy making by far the most money among the receivers. But instead of lifting Shedeur up, instead of helping the rookie develop and gain confidence, instead of being the professional veteran presence that young quarterbacks desperately need, he's tearing him down. He's creating division. He's making everything about himself instead of about the team. And let's not forget that Jerry Jeudy has been absolutely awful this entire season. The numbers don't lie, and they paint a damning picture. He's caught just 35 passes for 421 yards and 1 touchdown through 11 games. For a receiver of his talent level, for someone making his kind of money, for someone who's supposed to be a #1 option, those numbers are completely unacceptable. But here's the statistic that should make every Browns fan furious. He leads the entire National Football League with 9 dropped passes. 9 drops. That's not just bad. That's embarrassing for a receiver of his supposed talent level and pedigree. Now, let's talk about what Jeudy and Sanders said after the game, because this is what separates him from Jeudy and reveals who has the right mindset to succeed in this league. After being disrespected on the sideline, after being attacked by his own receiver in front of millions of people, after having every right to be angry and defensive, Shed could have easily thrown Jeudy under the bus during his post-game press conference. He could have told reporters, "Yeah, he was completely wrong. He shouldn't have come at me like that." He needs to look at his own performance before pointing fingers at anyone else. But you know what Jeudy and Sanders did instead? He took the high road. He showed maturity and leadership that goes far beyond his years and experience level. When asked about the offensive struggles in his relationship with the receivers, Shedeur said, "When we got in certain passing situations and field position, it wasn't the best. It was a comfort level. As players and teammates, we have to be able to gel with each other and be comfortable with each other in every situation. That takes time. This team is not going to be a microwave thing to not going to be a microwave thing." That's a rookie quarterback who understands that you can't just throw him into an offense mid-season and expect instant chemistry with receivers, especially when he spent months on the bench not getting first-team reps. He understands that timing and chemistry between quarterbacks and receivers takes repetitions, takes practice time, takes game experience working together. That's mature perspective that some veterans never develop. Then Shedeur said something even more revealing. He said, "A lot of time out there passing-wise, we're not seeing everything at the same lens. Certain guys aren't in the same spot that we've seen in practice." Read between the lines there. That's a diplomatic, professional way of saying receivers aren't running their routes correctly. That's a polite way of saying my receivers aren't where they're supposed to be when I'm expecting them to be there. That's him acknowledging that the disconnect isn't always about arm strength or accuracy, but about everyone being on the same page. But even after all that, even after being publicly disrespected, even after having legitimate grievances he could air out, Shedeur still didn't throw Jeudy or anyone else under the bus. When a reporter tried to get him to criticize Kevin Stefanski's play calling, clearly fishing for a controversial quote, Shedeur shut it down immediately. He said, "First, that's a rude question to ask if I think it was a great call by my coach. I like being out there playing. We're not going to be here and point fingers at no coach or do anything like that. That's extremely disrespectful." That response is pure leadership. That is exactly how a franchise quarterback is supposed to carry himself. And Jimmy Haslam is allegedly watching all of this play out. He's watching Shedeur handle extreme adversity with class and maturity. He's watching Shedeur take accountability for things that weren't entirely his fault. He's watching Shedeur defend his coaches and his teammates, even when they don't deserve that loyalty. And, on the flip side, he's allegedly watching Jeudy act like a spoiled child, attacking the quarterback publicly, making excuses for his own poor performance, and failing to produce, while collecting tens of millions of dollars. Insiders with alleged knowledge of internal Browns discussions are saying that Jimmy Haslam has already told Andrew Berry in no uncertain terms that changes need to be made, that the culture in Cleveland needs to be about accountability and professionalism, not finger-pointing and selfish behavior. Some people with alleged connections to the organization are even suggesting that the Browns might seriously look to trade Jeudy in the offseason. And there are even whispers about potential disciplinary action, including suspension if another incident occurs. The Browns have 5 games remaining in this season. Kevin Stefanski has publicly confirmed that Jeudy and Sanders will start in Week 14 against the Tennessee Titans. So, this isn't a 1-aim audition anymore. Shedeur is getting a real opportunity to show what he can do as the starter. But that also means Shedeur and Jeudy are going to have to find a way to work together, at least for the remainder of this season. The question everyone is asking is whether Jeudy can put his massive ego aside and actually be a professional. Can he support his quarterback the way veterans are supposed to? Can he focus on improving his own performance instead of attacking everyone else? Or is he going to continue this destructive pattern? Because if there's another public incident, if he continues to be more problem than solution, the consequences could be severe and careering. All right. It's time for you to weigh in on this absolutely explosive situation. Do you think Jimmy Haslam is right to allegedly be furious with Jerry Jeudy, or is this all being blown out of proportion? Should the Browns suspend or even trade Jeudy for publicly disrespecting their rookie quarterback? Or do teammates have the right to hold each other accountable, even if it looks ugly on camera? And what about Shedeur Sanders? Is his mature response to this situation proof that he's got the mentality to be a franchise quarterback? Or is he being too soft by not standing up for himself more aggressively? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this is the kind of controversy that has the entire NFL world divided. Some people think Jeudy crossed a line and needs to face serious consequences. Others think passionate competitors sometimes clash, and we're making too big a deal out of a heated moment. Where do you stand on this? If this deep dive into the chaos inside the Cleveland Browns organization shocked you as much as it did me, smash that like button right now. This is the kind of behind-the-scenes drama that casual fans never hear about, and you just got the full story. Help spread this to every Browns fan and NFL follower who needs to know what's really happening. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another breakdown. We're going to continue following this situation closely because something tells me this story is far from over. Whether it's suspension, trade rumors, or more sideline confrontations, you don't want to miss what happens next. Share this video everywhere because Browns fans deserve to know the truth about what's happening with their team. Post it on social media. Send it to your group chats. Make sure everyone understands the full context of this situation. Until next time, keep watching the drama unfold in Cleveland, because this franchise never stops providing entertainment for all the wrong reasons. Whether they can turn this dysfunction into something positive remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Peace out.